Hey everybody, good to see you again. Hey, so here's the plan for this week. Here's what we got going on. Once again, if you have not read through the plan that I sent you, you need to pause me and go read it right now. So here we go. Pause. Okay, now that you've read it and you're back, here's what we're doing. As we go through two, we're really talking about the basics of what does it mean to be following Christ. How do we live this life following God? We're going to continue this week into talking about what are our gifts. Everybody got the spiritual gifts inventory, and we're going to talk through some of that. I want you to make sure that you understand that the most important thing that we're talking about, the most important thing is just carrying through the conversation of what is this life all about? What does it mean to be following who God is? And so, depending upon where your conversation left off last week or who you've got in your group this week, that may change, that may shift a little bit. So, last week we talked about kind of spending time with God, and this week we're going to introduce kind of a language of not calling it devos or quiet time, but just calling it your conversation with God, your relationship with God. How is that going? Because that can look lots of different ways. We need to allow that to look different ways, whether it's, like we talked about last week, hang out with friends or spending time quietly on your knees or in reading, or, whatever it is, taking a walk or, you know, listening to music with God, whatever that is. We need to help them identify how are they spending time with God. Are they looking into God's Word in some way, shape, or form? Because there's all kinds of different ways you can, not, besides just reading the Bible book pages, you can, listen to sermons online from a good preacher from the chapel website. You can be, there's all kinds of different scenarios out there, different things that you can use. We want them interacting with God's Word, and we want them spending time talking to God and listening to God. And so, talk to them about how did it go last week. If you didn't get a chance to call some of them, ask them how did your time with God go this week that we wrote down on the sheet, and say, did it work? Did it not? How can I help you with that? Do we need to change what your plan is? Okay, did you try it and it didn't work? You didn't try it, and so we don't know if it works. But continue that conversation. That's really important. And then the second part is read through is really just about helping them to see that they're uniquely made, that they're created specifically for God's plan, and they're different than everybody else, and they have their own unique gifts. And that's where we bring in the gifts plan. And you try and minimize a lot of um, the formalities and the structuring of it. Really, it's just a tool to help guide them to how God has created them. It doesn't mean that this is once for all. This is what their gift is. There's tons of spiritual gifts inventories, and they all have different numbers of gifts and types of gifts, and they grade it differently, have different questions. It's all just a tool to help point them in the right direction. All of them will get them to a certain point in life, and point them to a certain thing of how they are created in life. But the most important thing is that they start to see, what their personality is and how God has created them. And those things can also change over time. They may be something right now, and it may shift a little bit later in life because they may not have even experienced something that, using a gift yet. So they don't even know if they're gifted. They don't know if they like it yet. Somebody may just not have the opportunity to really work hard with their hands and do kinds of building and stuff like that. But they can be totally gifted at that. They just haven't had that opportunity. So talk through that, kind of see what comes out of those conversations. But really the whole point there is to guide them into seeing how they are uniquely made. We want them to kind of feel special, that they're unique and God has made them in a certain way. But then we want to bring them through the point of how do they utilize that? How do they, okay, this is my gifting. Well, that's what you need to be focusing on in your relationship with God, in your faith is, don't try and do, go out and helping people at soup kitchens if you don't really have the gift of helps. But man, you may be a great speaker or teacher, and you're gifted that way. So focus on those things. These are the ways that we need to step out and live out our faith. There's lots of different ways to do that, but the gift point is to, hey, this is what you need to do. These are the ways you need to serve. These are the ways you need to volunteer. This is the way you need to be interacting with your world and allowing God to use you in that way. That's the main point of those things. So we're going to have those conversations. And again, let me stress, read through, pray through the scriptures and the plans of everything. But guys, this is the bare minimum. If you don't know what else to do with your group, if you don't know how else to be prepared, then do what's on the sheet. But generally, we want to continue the conversation of, how do they have a conversation with God, and what are those basic things? What is this supposed to look like on a day-to-day basis? And then start to have the conversation of, how are you uniquely gifted? Those are the two main points for this week, and I want you to guide your students into those conversations, hold them accountable, make them feel loved, and help them to discover the answers to the questions that they're having. That's really the direction we want to go. Guys, your time is more about creating a great conversation that is going to be helpful and relevant to them than getting through everything on the page. So use the page as a guide, but it's more about those two main topics and continuing that conversation. We're talking about what are the basics, what do you need to do to be stepping out and living this life for Christ. And so this applies to those who are brand new in their faith, who don't even have a faith yet. They can take a look at what this means. It's kind of like test driving a car. What is all this supposed to be before I make that decision? How am I supposed to live this life? And those who've done this, who do have a vibrant relationship with God, they can be helping to teach others, they can be giving good examples, but they can also be thinking through the next level. How would they help someone else to do this? Or have they ever helped someone else to do this? It's really important that we have these conversations, and every week we're assessing, where are the students at that I'm having a conversation with in my crew time, and what are their questions, and where can we go next? It's not about trying to assume that everybody's here and bring everybody to this next point. It's figuring out, where are they in this conversation, and where do they need to go, and how can I bring them there? And you don't have to have all the answers to that, but you can start talking about that, trying to figure out what their questions are, putting out, hey, well, maybe this is an answer, maybe we can look at this, and that gives you an opportunity to be authentic, to be real, and to interact with them outside of the crew time if you don't have those answers. So anyways, that's where we're going this week. Like I said, there's a couple quick notes. The game time, it does tie into some of my teaching points. So we are going to do a deer hunter game, but the way it's described on the sheet seems a little tame. So I'm going to modify it a little bit. We're going to bring some dodgeballs in and have a little more fun, a little more action with that to really get them into it. So have a great week. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you on Wednesday.